All right, folks, welcome into our latest edition of the Last Word on Sports Media podcast. We're making it happen here on this Tuesday early evening. I am merely the somewhat capable host, TJ Rives. He is Miek Gill, the co-host of the Last Word on Sports Media podcast. Good to be with you, Mike. You also hear him daily on the Sports Bash, Monday through Friday in Atlantic City on ESPN 97.3. In fact, full disclosure, Mike's just gotten done with his show as we do this tonight. We got so much going on, from NBA Finals, Stanley Cup Finals could be over tonight. Great finish at the U.S. Open Golf. Caitlin Clark is back. Tons to talk about for a few minutes. Good to be with you. I know you've been doing a lot of talking at the time that we're doing this. How are we feeling, though, on a Tuesday with a bunch of craziness in the sports media stuff?
Yeah, I got off the air about 10 minutes ago, and there was a big story here that's happening down in Miami where Nick Castellanos' consecutive game streak just ended because apparently he made an inappropriate comment to the manager, so we're all trying to speculate on what could he have said? What would be so bad that gets him benched? So that was a big story right at the last half of my show tonight.
You and I go back and forth, but I mean, we're never going to suspend each other and get benched for the comments and the takes. Thank you for finding us. Whether you're seeing us here on social media, on Mike's YouTube page, Miek Gill Show YouTube page, his social media at Miek Gill Show, my social media at Buck Sideline Guy on Twitter X. Also for the podcast audience hearing us after the fact, we're actually going to have something that is special and specific to the podcast audience in a little bit. Thank you for finding us on Pod after the fact, Apple, Spreaker, Spotify on podcast. So if you're seeing us, take us, as we say, in the AirPods, the earbuds, on the Bluetooth. If you're hearing us only, it's also a video show. Hey, let's get right into the NBA Finals. We've well documented it's a close series. Oklahoma City has now won Game 5. They've taken a 3-2 lead. Very competitive, but not highly rated. We've well covered all of that. Indiana going to try to bow their back and force a Game 7 if they can. Halliburton, their star guard, is hurt. Calf injury, ESPN is reporting. Mike, what are your thoughts on the finals as the ratings continue to just kind of slog along here? Not very good with the audience, even if the basketball is competitive. Quick thought from you?
Yeah, I mean, listen, we've talked a lot about the fact that you're not going to get good ratings here. It just wasn't going to happen. And then, Indiana stole the first game. Then it was a 2-2. You get to Game 5 last night, and Oklahoma City ends up winning that game. They have it pretty much at hand for the most part. Indiana comes back. And ESPN is trying to acquiesce to everything. You put these things on the court. You complain about that. We'll throw superimposed images on the court. Well, where's the starting lineups? Oh, you want the starting lineups? We'll do that too. Where was all this stuff at the beginning? Not that maybe that would draw a whole heck of a lot, but a lot of it, I mean, there's been no storytelling. You don't know who a lot of these players are, and the result is you're probably going to get one of the lowest rated.
Can I confess, did I see they have not done the starting lineups on ABC's broadcast for over a decade? I didn't know that.
2013, I think, is the number.
I thought at some point they were still introducing the starters in the NBA Finals, at least some of the time on TV. I mean, they do a long enough pregame and postgame coverage. So we'll see what the ratings end up being. They've not been good. It's going to end up being one of the lowest rated finals in this century of keeping track. And this is including the out-of-home measurement at sports bars and guests. We've well documented that. And the NBA has cashed in with new TV deals. So how much do they really care right now that there's only 10 million watching, Mike, versus 13 million watching? So it's ultimately that big of a deal financially.
And Sports Media Watch, John Lewis, the NBA Finals hits another series high in Game 5, but it's still the least watched Game 5 since the COVID bubble. It did not have the Game 5 bump. It got a 1% bump over Game 4. So the fact that it's a 2-2 series and this thing's been fun didn't do much for the people.
No, not so far with the ratings. Now, what's a bigger topic? Stephen A. Smith, who's created a firestorm for himself on so many fronts and so many levels. But, Mike, we got to talk sports media here for a second. When you are being paid heftily tens of millions of dollars and your primary gig is covering the NBA and being part of the NBA Finals coverage, we are showing, for the podcast audience, you're not seeing this, but we're showing this to the video audience. You can't be doing this, Miek Gill, where the game is going on and over the shoulder of Stephen A. Smith in Indianapolis, a fan captures him on this video playing solitaire on his phone while the game is going on. Look, I mean, I know we all spend way too much time on our cell phones, but you can't, Mike, you can't be doing this while the game is going on. You're there to cover the game. It's one thing if it's halftime. Of course, he's on the halftime show. It's one thing if it's during a timeout. He actually lied on social media when somebody put the photo up and said it was during a timeout. You can clearly see on our video, he's doing this while the game is going on. Horrible look for him. Horrible credibility look for him. How much do you really care about a plum assignment? I mean, you're in a privileged position to be on the NBA Finals coverage if you're doing that during a game. That's my take. Mike, go ahead with your take.
Obviously it's a bad look. I mean, the fact that he's caught and then he says one thing and then it's obvious, hey, we got video you. You're telling us during a timeout. It's not during a timeout. I mean, listen, we all kind of drift a little bit in our daily assignments, I'm sure. He has a privilege of covering the NBA Finals, but like most people, seems like he's bored with this NBA Finals.
But at the same time, you got to be locked in when the game's going on, and I know you know that. And
especially when you're talking as much as he's talking about this game on a variety of different platforms.
Yeah. And by the way, I heard our buddy Brian Curtis on The Ringer, and David Shoemaker is his co-host, and they were actually quasi defending this as, well, you know, in a press box, you'll see writers and media members doing all kinds of things, and there's play-by-play. Correct. A play-by-play guy will be sending text messages, etc., while a game is going on, but that's usually during a timeout or a halftime. We got to make the distinction. You got to pay attention to the game while the game is going on.
Do you check your phone or text or anything during a play-by-play?
I will during a break or a halftime, which is, I mean, you can say, okay, maybe you shouldn't be doing that, but at least that's not while action is going on. What about you? You can't competently broadcast a game while you're trying to do this while it's going on. What about you?
I'm certainly not doing it in the middle of the action, no. But yes, I am answering, or I can keep up. I'm a pretty good multitasker, though. I can do multiple things at once. I'm also, listen, I don't know if other people do this or not, but like, you know, you have the iPad or the laptop and like, say I'm calling a game and the Phillies game's on. I might be calling a game while the Phillies game's going on at the same time, and I might be like stuff like that.
Something else might be on, right?
Yeah, and it's on. I mean, I'm not intently watching it for any, by far. But yes, I've had distractions happening. This is more, he's in a role where I think it's just a bad look because he's on a national platform. He's thought to be the voice of the NBA for that network, and here you are saying, well, I'm not interested in this game. I'm playing solitaire.
This is, as you just kind of made mention of, this is almost the indictment of how this series doesn't grip you. Do we really believe if his Knicks, because he's a Knicks guy, he's unabashed, if the Knicks were in the finals, that he would be on his phone? Please. On
Doubtful.
That. So we spent some time on that. Guess who's back? Not just us being back on the pod.
Well, real quick on this. I do want to say this real quick. The difference, too, of like, hey, you get a text message from your wife or your daughter and you're responding to them is different than a capturing game of solitaire grabbed you. I mean, come on.
Agreed. So we're back. Guess who else is back? Caitlin Clark. Caitlin Clark returned for the Indiana Fever in the WNBA with her teammates against the defending champion New York Liberty, Sabrina Ionescu. And I think you have a little video that we're going to roll while we're talking about this here in just a second, where she was back in a big way, and ABC and the WNBA, Disney, ABC, the WNBA, they all benefited from this, with Caitlin Clark bombing in three-pointer after three-pointer. Are we going to go into a little bit of this from Saturday? This was Saturday afternoon on ABC, with Caitlin Clark just raining in three-pointer after three-pointer. In fact, she made three of them in about a 30-second span of clock time. Over 2.2 million people were watching. The game swelled to an audience of nearly 3 million on Saturday afternoon. Very solid numbers. Again, a better number than the typical number they've been getting in her absence on network TV. Good for the WNBA. We knew this. This is not a big surprise. We knew they would get a bump, a big shot in the arm. She had a 30-point game. They beat the defending champs, Miek Gill.
Well, and you saw, and listen, my college roommate was in town this weekend, and I did not see the Caitlin Clark game. I did not kind of remember that she was playing, but he's like, did you watch this game? Did you watch her play? Did you see what she did? Where she pulled up from? I mean, look at where she's pulling up from on the video here. I mean, she's pulling up from, 40 feet. And
a couple of times.
Yeah, and this is why she has the cachet that she does. This morning on the ESPN National Morning Show on Sportsmanlike, Evan Cohen, Chris Canty, and Michelle Smallman, they had her ranked as the number one superstar in all of sports right now. Number one, ahead of LeBron, ahead of everybody. Number one.
Do you think she's ahead of Mahomes? That's a little unrealistic.
They didn't even have Mahomes in their top 5.
I don't know that I go along with that. I get from a basketball standpoint, would you say she's bigger than LeBron or Steph Curry? I don't know, but is she right up there? I just don't know. I mean, the NFL's got 30 million people watching their biggest games. So,
well, I think the point he was making was the difference in a Mahomes game versus another game, as opposed to the difference in her game versus another game that she's not in. The gap of that.
I would agree. On that point, it's not that much less in the NFL if it's not a Mahomes game, or in the NBA if it's not a LeBron or a Steph Curry. So a good point on that. But Caitlin Clark back. The WNBA ratings are there. By the way, one of the other star players, because I keep up with the league, is Asia Wilson, the former MVP a couple of times. They won a couple of world titles. She's in concussion protocol with an injury this past weekend, so she may be sidelined for a little bit. Paige Beckers has had a concussion earlier in the year, the star rookie who just won the UConn national title. They need the players to get a little healthier in the WNBA. All right, what else do we want to go to from a sports media standpoint? Excellent drama Sunday, rain delayed, but the U.S. Open Golf did deliver late in the day, including J.J. Spahn's winning putt on the 72nd hole. What a story for an American to pull it out at Oakmont Golf Club just outside of Pittsburgh. The course was the big winner, Mike, as we knew, with the big rough and the greens that are always lots of hills and very fast. So only one guy under par, as it turns out, at the U.S. Open, like we theorized. But what a story for an everyman kind of guy. J.J. Spahn really kind of out of nowhere winning this event. And NBC, I thought, overall did a great job of capturing that. What's your thought overall?
Yeah, the one thing I would ask you, okay, is I always wonder this, like what your favorite sports teams air during rain delays. The Phillies game comes on, you see highlights of the 93 Phillies, like yearbook on repeat. How do you feel about them playing like old U.S. Opens, like the Tiger Woods, Rocco Mediate comes in there? What do you think of that? Or like, would you rather them give analysis, breakdown, and fodder?
So they did a little of both on Sunday, and we're going to play the J.J. Spahn putt in just a second, but they actually did give a little breakdown of what had gone on in round 2, showed some highlights, but they knew the delay was going to be another 45 minutes or an hour, so they put the Tiger Woods dramatic 2008 U.S. Open final round on, where Woods had to make the putt just to force the playoff the next day and rattle that putt in at Torrey Pines in San Diego. And it's interesting because J.J. Spahn has given interviews, including on Tuesday to the Today Show, where he said, we were in the locker room watching the Tiger. He goes, I was there with a couple of other guys, and we're watching the Tiger replay. So NBC and the United States Golf Association didn't have Tiger Woods in the 2025 tournament, but at least they could bring him back on the magic of videotape. So
was that the highest rated segment?
It may have been close to it during the rain delay. All right, here is the Dan Hicks call, and the pictures and the productions are tremendous of J.J. Spahn lining up a putt that's a long putt here.
63.
And if 63 feet, and if he not only doesn't make this, if he doesn't make the second putt, it's going to be a playoff. If he makes a bogey, it's going to be a playoff with an unknown Scottish golfer named Robert McIntyre. So he needed 2 putts to win. He didn't need 2 putts in the end, and here's the way it sounded and looked on NBC.
Want to cozy it up. Don't need to make it. 2 putts.
How about 1? So again, for our pod audience, they're showing Spahn celebrating with the caddy. They're showing the family, Spahn pumping his fist. We're seeing that on the video. Dan Hicks' call forever. Miek Gill, what do you think? How about 1?
Yes,
That's what he says as the putt goes in.
Yeah, as you're watching this and you're saying, like, as you mentioned, you set it up. If he doesn't make this, you're going to a playoff. And he's just saying, all right, potentially he needs a 2-putt this thing 63 feet away. You're thinking, all right, he's going to try at least for the 2, and he nails it there. Yeah, I thought it was a great call by Hicks, especially given all the drama, all the weight, and everything. Bang.
Yeah, and keep in mind, it was not a star-studded leaderboard, obviously. You've got Sam Burns, a little-known American that's won a couple of times up at the top. Adam Scott's a little more famous worldwide golfer, the Australian former Masters champion. But most of the names you did not know, you did not have a Tiger, did not have in the present a Rory McIlroy. They were hoping that Scotty Scheffler, who made a couple of birdies late, could get in the mix, but he was too far behind. So I haven't seen what the final rating is for the rain-delayed Open. Now, that finish came in the 7 Eastern time hour, so it should have bumped up some of the audience for NBC that you're now into the prime time hour, which they had intended anyway for it to end sometime in the 7 Eastern time hour. But Spawn wins dramatically, probably got something like 5 or 6 million on average. I don't know how much the rain delay hurt it, but we'll wait and see what the official number is from NBC on that with the U.S. Open. I thought the production was outstanding. The one complaint I have, I want your take, too many people talking all the time, multiple people in the booth. You not only had Dan Hicks and Kevin Kisner. Usually this is a 2-person in the 18 tower, but NBC's got Terry Gannon in the 18 tower with Brad Faxon at the same time. 4 voices talking. They've got the on-course voices. They've got Mike Tirico jumping in and doing the hosting. At times they had 9 or 10 different people. It seemed just to be too many. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, and that's why I was kind of asking, what do you think of the fact they had all these voices, they had all this insight? Where did they need to go to a tournament from 2008? There, or was it 2008 that they went?
Correct, 2008 Tiger and Rocco Mediate, right?
Right. Or you have 9 guys at your disposal to kind of chop it up and kind of go at it. But you're right, it was confusing at times, which got sometimes like you're going from tower to tower, and whose voice is this, and who's the voice. Sometimes it was a little confusing.
Again, NBC will also do the Open Championship, the British Open, in another month in Northern Ireland, where Rory McIlroy is one of the big favorites, and that's the final golf major of the year before the playoffs coming up. So there's a little golf talk. So we've covered many different subjects. We also have the Stanley Cup final, could be over with as soon as tonight. Florida Panthers and the Edmonton Oilers, the sequel, with Florida now looking for the back-to-back for the repeat. They lead 3-2. Again, Turner has the coverage on TNT with Kenny Albert, Eddie Olczyk, Brian Boucher. Could be a cup-clinching night in Miami on Tuesday night. Obviously, if you're hearing us on podcast after the fact, you already know, did they wrap it up or is it Game 7 back in Edmonton? The ratings still are just not there at the lower level. We theorized, did we not, Mike Gill, it might be hurt a bit by the fact it's a rematch and it's Miami against Edmonton, not a New York team, not a Detroit, not a Chicago, the bigger markets for hockey. So we'll wait to see if they get to a Game 7. Maybe that'll help it a little bit. And Canada has embraced it more because it is the Edmonton Oilers. They're getting around 6 or 7 million watching every night in Canada for these different games. Could go a little higher. We'll see, but
I will say
the Stanley Cup final because it could be over with Tuesday night.
Yeah, I mean, the ratings have not been great as we kind of pontificated about, but we also thought that the production value that they bring, TNT, Kenny Albert, Boucher, you mentioned that crew, they do a great job. The studio show's great. It's clean, all of it. I mean, their production, that's what you're going to miss about TNT not having basketball anymore.
And the other part of this is as disjointed as ESPN's coverage of the NBA is with all of the stuff. TNT makes it so much better with their coverage on the hockey. And this is being hurt a little bit by the fact that for the second time now in the 4 years of the deal, the split deal, it's not on ESPN and ABC. It was on network TV at the end last year, helping the audience. This is on cable. And the whole argument about cable versus network versus streaming continues on. We'll see if the Panthers wrap it up. By the way, if they do, it's the first time for a back-to-back since Mike Gill knows his hockey trivia. First time for a back-to-back 77 and 78 when Montreal beat Boston both years if the same team goes back-to-back against the same runner-up, if it happens. Now, if Edmonton wins tonight, you got a winner-take-all Game 7. Canada hasn't had a Stanley Cup champion in 32 years, going back to 1993. They got to win tonight to keep it alive.
Yeah, I think the Game 7 might get you, what, $5 million-ish?
On cable, yeah, they hope for Turner. They would hope in a winner-take-all Game 7. Stay tuned. If it can get there, they're looking to wrap it up in Miami. Who knew? How about the Florida Panthers could have back-to-back Stanley Cups? The Miami Heat have had what, Mike? 3 NBA championships in this century. The Miami Dolphins can't win a playoff game, but the hockey team and the basketball team do just fine down in South Florida for that.
Who knew? Hockey Central, Florida.
Yeah, who knew? All right, one more quick thing because I know you got to run momentarily here for the video audience. That's the College World Series ongoing. What a moment Monday afternoon when this guy that's on the video screen, the pod audience is not seeing us, this guy on the video screen is Gage Wood, outstanding flame-throwing pitcher for the Arkansas Razorbacks. He shut down, shut out, and no-hit the Murray State Racers to eliminate Murray State. Arkansas advances on in the College World Series with a no-hitter, no less. Mike Monaco of ESPN calling Gage Wood's final out, his final strikeout. Here's the call.
The 1-2. Swing and a miss! Greatness from Gage! A no-hitter!
On video, they're letting the celebrating and the pictures tell the story for the podcast audience. You hear the crowd noise. 19 strikeouts. Hello, Miek Gill. This guy's projected to be a first-round pick coming up, obviously, in the Major League Baseball draft. First no-hitter since 1960. You and I and probably almost everybody else that's watching this and hearing us was not alive. The last no-hitter in the College World Series. That's incredible.
Truly remarkable. But, I mean, they do use metal bats, so that's why, to get a no-hitter at that level is really, really difficult. Monaco, by the way, I thought was a great call, and just the layout there. And you can see the video. If you saw the video that ESPN put out of Ben McDonald, was one of the analysts, and he actually has his phone out, and he's taking it all in. He's doing the video, recording the moment, and recording Monaco just sitting there, like laying out there. That was pretty cool.
And McDonald was a fantastic college pitcher in the College World Series. A great
LSU.
star for LSU in his day. But he even said, I'm speechless at this pitching performance. 119 pitches, 19 strikeouts, 83 strikes out of 119 pitches. He was dominant. It was incredible. They left him in. Great moment. Arkansas still alive as they continue to progress in the College World Series. They'll get down to 2 teams that will play the best of 3, and that will be coming off the weekend and next week. So we got time to analyze that. But check out the ESPN coverage with Mike Monaco, Ben McDonald. I think it's Kyle Tucker is the other guy that's there. And then Carl Ravitch, Kyle Peterson, and Eduardo Perez are the other crew that's there on ESPN for their coverage of the College World Series. Other than that, I think you and I are about good. By the way, anniversary night tonight. Tonight, June 17th, is the 31st anniversary of the O.J. Simpson Bronco chase. Hello. And how that interrupted everything on that Friday night. The entire country gravitated to the O.J. Bronco chase, and even the NBA Finals game went away for 2 different times on NBC. The Knicks-Rockets Game 5 went away. Great documentary on ESPN, a 30 for 30. Just simply the date, June 17th, 1994. It's unanchored, no narrator, full coverage. New York Rangers hockey parade. World Cup, Miek Gill opened up on that day in the United States. The U.S. as the host country. The Knicks playing the Rockets that night, and the O.J. Simpson and Arnold Palmer's final round at the U.S. Open in Oakmont, of all places, 31 years ago.
Crazy.
Late Arnold Palmer played his final round with Rocco Mediate, by the way, Miek Gill. In the group, you'll see it in that documentary. All of that happened on June 17th, 1994, with the O.J. Bronco chase. So for the pod audience, I'm going to say this right now. You get a bonus for being with us on podcast. Bob Costas was part of that night on NBC with their coverage, And Bob was a guest on George Offman's Tell Me a Story I Don't Know podcast. Great episode. You can hear the full episode with Bob on this podcast feed. But here is Costas telling you some stories you might not know about that night and how O.J. Simpson was trying to call Bob Costas while they were live on the NBA Finals. So for the pod audience, I'm going to pause right here. The pod audience, you're going to hear Bob Costas with George right now. The video audience, you got to go find the podcast to hear it.
Yeah.
We're pushing you to the podcast. So here that is right now on podcast, Bob Costas with George Offman about the O.J. Bronco chase night. So again, they're hearing that. They have heard that on podcast, and we're going to wrap up the video show and the podcast right here because I know you've got to run as well.
I do.
Anything else in closing?
I got the baseball numbers from Saturday night, by the way. Red Sox, Yankees, 2.1 million. That's a big baseball number. Normally, like a good Red Sox, Yankees Sunday night baseball, but for Fox to get that on a Saturday, it's up over 13% from last year when you had a couple regular season games. So yet Red Sox, Yankees delivering with an average Red Sox team, against a Yankees team. So big number. Baseball, interesting story building for them and where this baseball is going to go. I'm very intrigued by that.
Yeah, and Major League Baseball keeps showing the Yankees or the Dodgers like every Sunday night. It's like it's the only two teams that exist for Sunday Night Baseball right now. By the way, a quick follow-up from you. Anything on the O.J. Bronco chase 31 years later? It's still incredible TV. Over 90 million combined audience on all the networks, on CNN, everywhere else that it was on. It was crazy that night, and it's hard to believe that it's 31 years later.
I know. I mean, it's watching that Bronco roll down every television station in the country and thinking that was no, I never saw O.J. play, really. I was a little too young for that.
Yeah, right.
But I remember him from Naked Gun. I mean, Airplane. I mean, yeah.
All the movies and all the shows.
But still, I mean, obviously you knew the story. I mean, just crazy still to this day.
It is crazy reality TV at the time that reality TV wasn't really even born yet. Sports is always the reality TV. So again, the pod audience, for the video audience watching us live, go listen to the podcast.
Real quick,
you mentioned Bob Costas. Go ahead.
Mike Monaco was on the Announcer Schedule podcast. If you want to go back and check out our conversation with him.
Yeah, his story as well. Just search up Mike Monaco's name on this podcast feed. Search Bob Costas' name. Hear the full comments. Mike, great stuff tonight. I know you got to run. We got to run as well. We'll see if the Stanley Cup wraps up this evening. If Miami gets it again for the Florida Panthers. Or does it force a Game 7? NBA Finals still ongoing. We'll be here in the summer talking sports media. From Miek Gill, I'm TJ Rives. Thank you for being with us on the Last Word on Sports Media show and podcast.